The north is cold and full of whispers.
What if Tywin Lannister raised Arya Stark? What if the girl who was meant to be the wolf learned instead to think like the lion? Let's explore the depths of it in this video. The screams have stopped. That is what Tywin notices first as he rides through the gates of King's Landing on his destrier, flanked by the golden lions of House Lannister. The screams that filled the morning, the shrieks of the dying, the wails of the fleeing, the mad laughter of a king who ordered everything burned, have given way to an eerie, suffocating silence. Smoke curls from the Red Keep's towers. The smell of charred flesh and scorched stone hangs in the summer air like a curse. Tywin Lannister is 60 years old. He has won battles across the Riverlands for months now, his forces methodically dismantling the Targaryen war machine while Robert Baratheon's rebels smash Rhaegar on the Trident. The old lion's patience has been rewarded. The realm is fragmenting. And now, with the Mad King dead, killed by some golden-haired boy in the King's Guard, reports say, the winning is assured. He does not smile. Tywin never smiles when victory arrives. He smiles when enemies recognize they are beaten. His master-at-arms, a grizzled knight named Sir Gregor Clegane, rides beside him. Behind them, 300 lions crest the Blackwater, their spears catching the morning light like flames. Burn everything, Tywin had commanded. Leave nothing the rebels can hold. Make the Riverlands a wasteland. His men have been thorough. The Stark holdfast to the east of the city, a way station, nothing more, has been raised. Tywin's scouts reported it 3 days past. Refugees mostly. A few Stark men-at-arms. No military value. Burn it anyway. The Starks had supported the rebellion. They deserve the weight of that choice. But refugees scatter like roaches when you bring the torch. And one detail troubles Tywin as he rides through King's Landing's smoking gates, though he would never admit trouble to anyone who might see it on his face. A young Stark woman, the scouts said, northern blood. She was leading refugees northwest toward the mountains. She had a babe, perhaps 2 moons old. Stark coloring. The dark hair, the lean face. The woman, and perhaps 24 others, had fled into the Crownlands forest before the men could close the net. Tywin had ordered them hunted. Standard practice. No witnesses, no possible rallying point for a defeated house. By now they are likely dead or scattered beyond recovery. The forest swallows what it wishes. He puts the thought aside and dismounts before the Red Keep. The Targaryen banner, 3 black dragons on a crimson field, still flutters from the highest tower, torn and smoking. It will be taken down within the hour. Tywin's crimson lion will rise in its place. He ascends the steps of the keep slowly, deliberately. Each footfall echoes in the silence. Red stains the marble. Servants and soldiers and courtiers, some loyal, some turncoats, all of them afraid, spatter from his path like sparrows before a hawk. In the throne room, the Iron Throne gleams despite the ash that coats every surface. Tywin does not sit upon it. He will not sit upon it. The throne is a symbol of weakness, of the belief that sitting in a chair grants power, rather than understanding the mechanics of true power itself. He will rule the realm from Casterly Rock, through law, through gold, through careful marriages and careful placement of loyal men in positions of authority. But he stops before the throne for a moment, looking at it as a potter might look at a flawed vessel. The Targaryens ruled from this chair for 300 years, and in 300 years they managed to create a madman and a realm on the edge of chaos. Tywin would not make the same error. He turns and walks deeper into the keep, toward the dungeons. The dungeons of the Red Keep are more sophisticated than Tywin expected. Not the crude stone boxes of Harrenhal or even the functional cells of Casterly Rock. These are chambers designed by architects who understood that some prisoners needed to be kept alive, alert, and desperate. 3 Targaryen loyalists are chained in the deeper cells. Hand of the King, Master of Coin, a general or 2. Tywin spares them no attention. They will be tried, condemned, and executed. The process is already written. Their only variable is the speed of their death. But it is in one of the upper cells, hastily converted from a servant's quarters, that Tywin finds what his scouts could not complete. The woman is young, perhaps 25, with the dark hair and long face of House Stark. She is on her knees, her dress torn, her arms curled protectively around something small wrapped in a wool blanket. She looks up at the sound of his footsteps, and in her eyes, Tywin sees something he has encountered only in cornered animals. Absolute, resolved acceptance of death. Lord Tywin, she says. Her voice is low, steady. A high-born voice, educated. I am Lady Ashara Dane. This is not my child, but I was sworn to protect her. I ask that you kill me swiftly, and that you take the child to Dorne. House Martell will. Tywin does not let her finish. House Martell is in no position to negotiate anything, he says flatly. He steps closer, studying the woman. Ashara Dane. He knows the name. A lady-in-waiting to the dead queen. Red-haired, dark-eyed, educated. She was at court. She knows the faces of the powerful. She was close enough to Rhaegar Targaryen to have been thought his paramour by some, though Tywin's spies suggested otherwise. And the child in her arms is squirming now, beginning to cry, a thin, hungry sound. Tywin kneels, a gesture that seems almost obscene from a man of his age and position. Ashara flinches, but she does not resist as he pulls back the blanket. The child is an infant, perhaps 2 or 3 months old. Dark hair, dark eyes, sharp features even in infancy. The face of the North. Who is this child, he asks. His voice is not cruel, it is merely precise. Ashara's chin trembles, but her eyes do not waver. A ward of House Stark. Her mother is dead, her father is with the rebels. She is innocent. She deserves, Tywin repeats. He stands, the blanket falling back into place. You speak of what she deserves as if the world operates according to merit. I will not make that mistake in front of you a second time. He is quiet for a long moment. The baby continues to cry. Ashara begins to rock her, a futile gesture, as if the child's comfort matters anymore. But it is precisely because Ashara rocks the child, because she shields it with her body despite knowing her own death is certain, that Tywin recognizes the value of what he has found. Not the child itself. Children are ordinary. There are thousands of them, bastards and wards and inconvenient siblings. But a child of House Stark, raised by House Lannister, educated in Lannister ways, bound by gratitude and fear and the absence of any alternative, that is a thing of extraordinary value. That is a tool. That is an investment in the future that will yield returns for decades. What is the child's name? Tywin asks. Ashara hesitates. It is the hesitation of someone deciding whether truth or deception serves the child better. She chooses truth, an error that will be her last. Arya, she says. Arya Stark. Tywin nods slowly. A daughter of the great house. Of course, the Starks had sent their children everywhere, wards, hostages, scattered across the realm to forge bonds. This one was perhaps intended as a ward somewhere. The logistics of her placement are immaterial now. What matters is that House Stark has a daughter, and Tywin Lannister now has her. The woman is to be executed, he says to Sir Gregor, who has followed him into the dungeon and now waits at the entrance like a stone, swiftly. Privately, the child will be brought to my chambers. And if anyone asks about her, Sir Gregor's voice is like rocks grinding. No one will ask, Tywin says. Ashara Dane is a traitor. The woman who was with her in the confusion of the sack was lost to the flames, along with thousands of others. The child did not exist, and the child will not exist, not until I determine her purpose. He turns back to Ashara. Your death will be quick. That is more than you deserve, but I grant it because you loved this child enough to protect her, and such love, misguided as it is, has a certain utility. Ashara Dane begins to weep then, not for herself but for the child. She presses Arya against her chest, breathing in her hair, memorizing the weight of her in her arms. These are the last moments she will have. Tywin allows her this. Clemency is a tool as powerful as the sword, and there is no harm in being remembered as the man who granted a condemned woman her final moments with the child she loved. Then Sir Gregor enters the cell, and Tywin walks back up the stone steps toward the light. The journey from King's Landing to Casterly Rock takes 16 days if the roads are good and the horses are fresh. Tywin's party moves swiftly, with Sir Gregor carrying the infant in a cushioned basket insulated from the dust and heat of summer travel as carefully as if she were spun glass. Arya Stark cries in the mornings and in the evenings, the way infants do. She cries when she is hungry, when her swaddling is uncomfortable, when the jolting of the cart disturbs her sleep. Tywin listens to these cries with the detached interest of a man listening to the distant sounds of a mill. Irritating, yes, but mechanical, predictable, and ultimately the product of simple needs. By the time they reach Casterly Rock, the child has stopped crying so much. She is 3 months old now, perhaps 4. Her eyes track movement with increasing focus. Her fingers grip. She is beginning to be something more than a mewling animal, though not by much. Casterly Rock rises from the golden hills of the Westerlands like a crown upon a king's head. The largest castle in the realm, some claim. The richest, certainly. House Lannister's seat has stood for thousands of years, built into the very bones of the earth, its wealth drawn from the golden veins that honeycomb the stone beneath. Tywin's household staff does not ask questions. They are well trained in that regard. A child arrives. A ward, they are told. Perhaps a bastard, perhaps a relative. The details are not their concern. They are given their instructions. A wet nurse will be found. A nursemaid will attend her. She will be kept in the Eastern Tower, away from the main household. Her existence will be acknowledged but never emphasized. The wet nurse Tywin selects is a woman named Mina, whose own son died a year prior and whose milk had nowhere to go. She is middle-aged, hardy, and she asks no questions. She holds Arya to her breast and feeds her with the efficiency of a woman who knows that sentiment is a luxury she cannot afford. The nursemaid is younger, a girl named Jess, 14 years old, from a lesser cadet branch of House Lannister. She is glad for the work, glad to be at Casterly Rock, glad to have purpose. She cares for Arya with the tenderness of youth, changing her, bathing her in warm water, singing to her in a thin, sweet voice. But it is Tywin who sets the pattern. He visits the Eastern Tower once every 3 days. He does not hold the child. He merely observes. He watches her eyes following movement. He watches her grasping at her own fingers. He watches her as one might watch the construction of a great fortress, taking note of structural integrity, of growth, of how well the foundations are settling. She will be taught, he instructs Mina and Jez one evening when Arya is 6 months old and beginning to sit upright, not like a ward, not like a guest. She will learn as the lions of Casterly Rock learn. She will learn the history of her house, the history of my house now. She will learn to read, to cipher, to understand the mechanisms of power and gold and governance. She is but a babe, my lord, Jess says softly. She is a tool that requires sharpening, Tywin replies. That process begins now, not with lessons, she is too young for lessons, but with the understanding that she exists in a structure. That structure will be made clear to her. The sooner she understands the walls of her tower, the better she will accept them. By the time Arya is 2 years old, she speaks in short, clear words. Bread, water, no. The last of these she says to Tywin specifically, a defiance that would result in punishment from any other lord. Tywin simply watches her, his gray eyes unreadable. She has spirit, he observes to his seneschal, Sir Godfrey. Should it be curbed? Sir Godfrey asks carefully. Not curbed, channeled. There is a difference between obedience and will. Obedience can be broken. Will must be redirected. The child has Stark in her that runs deep. I will not waste energy trying to breed it out of her. Instead, I will teach her to employ it in service of Lannister interests. When Arya is 3 years old, Tywin brings a maester to Casterly Rock specifically for her instruction. The man's name is Maester Pydal, and he is no longer young. He has taught the children of great houses before, Baratheons, Arryns, even a Targaryen prince once, when the world was different. He is not impressed by his new charge. She is a girl, he says to Tywin without preamble. They stand in the solar of the Eastern Tower, and Arya is in the next chamber, playing with blocks of wood that Jess has carved for her. She is a Lannister ward, Tywin corrects. Teach her as you would a boy. Mathematics? The movements of stars and planets, the languages of the free cities, the bloodlines of noble houses across the known world. The girl will have no use for, she will have use for, whatever I determine she will have use for. Tywin interrupts, his voice flat. Begin with the fundamentals. Lettering, ciphering, the history of House Lannister from its founding. If you cannot perform these services, I will find a maester who can. Maester Pydal bows, recognizing an immovable force when one addresses him in such a tone. The lessons begin the next morning. Arya, at 3 years old, sits at a small table with quills and parchment in front of her, struggling to hold the quill properly, making marks that are little more than scratches. But she does not complain. It is unclear if she understands what is expected of her. But she understands that expectations exist. Tywin watches from the doorway once, just once. He does not need to watch again. By the time Arya is 4, she can recognize her letters. By 5, she can read simple sentences. By 6, she is reading histories of House Lannister, of the reign of Aegon the Conqueror, of the Targaryen civil wars. Maester Pydell, despite his initial resistance, becomes almost fond of his charge. She is clever, her mind grasps concepts quickly. She does not ask why she must learn these things, she simply learns them. It is Tywin who answers the why in a way that shapes everything that follows. When Arya is nearly 7 years old enough to understand consequences, old enough to understand that some people have power and others do not, Tywin brings her to his solar for a formal audience. It is a strange thing. A child called to stand before the great lord of a house as though she were a bannerman seeking favor. Arya stands in front of his desk, her dark hair braided in the Lannister style now, her clothing fine but understated. She is small for her age. The Starks tend to be lean, and her mother's people have not given her the height of the South. But her eyes are sharp. "Do you know who you are?" Tywin asks without preamble. Arya considers the question as though it is one of her lessons. "I am Arya," she says carefully. "I live in the Eastern Tower." "You are more than that," Tywin says. "You are Arya of Casterly Rock. You are the ward of House Lannister, the greatest house in the realm. You are gold and lions and power that extends across all of the Westerlands. Do you understand?" "Yes, my lord," Arya says. She has learned to call him that. "Your life was forfeit the day you entered this tower," Tywin continues, speaking to her as though she is a woman grown, because he has long ago concluded that coddling children with softened language does them a disservice. The people who would have cared for you are no longer in a position to do so. The family from which you came is scattered and broken. You have no claim on anything but what I grant you. No inheritance but what I choose to give you. Do you understand?" Arya's small face is very still. She does not cry. She does not ask why this is the case. "Yes, my lord," she says. "Your life now belongs to House Lannister," Tywin says. "What you make of it depends on what use I choose to make of you. You will be educated as a Lannister is educated. You will learn to think as a Lannister thinks. You will learn to serve the interests of this house as a loyal daughter of Lannister. But understand this, the moment you become useless to me, the moment you cease to serve my purposes, your continued existence becomes a liability. Do you understand?" She is 7 years old. She should cry. She should be frightened into silence. Instead, Arya straightens her shoulders, and something ancient and hard crystallizes in her eyes. The same look that would, in another life, make men fear her. But in this tower, in this moment, it merely causes Tywin to nod slightly, as though he has confirmed something he had long suspected about her nature. "Yes, my lord," she says again. "I understand. What would you have me do?" Tywin smiles then, a rare, thin smile that vanishes almost as soon as it appears. "Become useful," he says. "That is all." By the time Arya is 9 years old, she has become something unusual. She is not a boy, though she wears clothing that would be indistinguishable from that worn by Lannister ward sons. She is not fully a girl, in the sense that her education and expectations are not the ornamental sort taught to ladies destined for courtly marriages. She is something Tywin has created specifically. A ward of exceptional education, trained to think in the patterns of governance and strategy, but kept apart from the normal life of the house. She speaks High Valyrian now, and trade pidgin and the common tongue. She can cipher military logistics. She knows the bloodlines of every major house, the history of the Westerlands for 3,000 years, and the current disposition of forces across the realm. She knows the price of grain, the value of taxation systems, the mechanics of supply lines. But Maester Pydell has suggested, carefully and respectfully, that her education has become unbalanced. "She is a girl, my lord," the old Maester says to Tywin. "Her education is thorough, but the mind must be balanced with the body. She should have tutors in dancing, in statecraft, in the social arts of—" "No," Tywin says flatly, "she will not be married. She will not attend court. Her life will not depend on charm or beauty. Continue with the education as prescribed." But even Tywin recognizes that a mind without outlet becomes brittle. And so, in the spring of her 9th year, Arya is brought to the training yard of Casterly Rock. Sir Kevin, the Master-at-Arms, is 70 years old and had expected to train the children of Lannister lords and their wards. When a small, dark-haired girl is brought before him with orders that she is to be taught sword and horsemanship, his first reaction is to assume he has been misunderstood. "My lord," he says to the messenger, a captain of the garrison. "Lord Tywin's orders," the captain says. She is to be taught as a ward's son would be taught. Sword work, riding, the full curriculum. Sir Kevin is old enough to remember when the Targaryen had ruled, when dragons still flew, when the world was stranger and more terrible. He has seen things that most men have not, and so while he is surprised, he does not refuse. "Bring her out," he says. Arya emerges from the tower as though she is walking to her execution. She has not been told what will happen. She has merely been told to come to the yard. She is small for her age, lean as the Starks tend to be, with dark hair braided tightly to her skull. She is wearing boys' clothing. Her expression is carefully neutral in the way of children who have learned that emotion is a luxury they cannot always afford. "What is your name?" Sir Kevin asks. "Arya, Sir Kevin," she says. Her voice is soft but clear. "Can you ride?" "Yes, sir." "Can you fight?" She hesitates. This is an admission she has never made, a skill she has never claimed. "No, sir, but I can learn." Sir Kevin nods slowly. "Aye. Well, let's see what we're working with then." He has her walk, run, jump. He watches how she moves, where her balance sits, how her weight distributes. He notes that she is light on her feet, which is good. He notes that she is small and not likely to develop much more height, which is not ideal but can be worked with. He notes that her hands are quick, her eyes track movement well, and that she does not seem afraid of the sword when he places one in her hands, though it is clear she has never held one before. "You'll be sore," he says. "Every day will hurt. You'll want to quit." "Don't." "I won't," Arya says. And she doesn't. By the time she is 10 years old, she can fight a wooden dummy well enough. By 11, she can spar against older wardsons and hold her own. By 13, she is the best swordsman among the younger wards, a position she achieves not through strength. She is still small, still slight, still a girl in a yard full of boys, but through speed and precision, and an understanding that fighting is a form of geometry, of mathematics applied to the movements of bodies. Sir Kevin, watching her work, begins to understand why Tywin brought her here. She is not being trained to be a knight. Knights are men. Knights have oaths and codes. But she is being trained to be something else entirely, a weapon, honed and sharp and loyal only to the will that forged her. "She's dangerous," he says to Tywin one evening after watching her disarm a boy 3 years her senior. "Yes," Tywin agrees, "that is the intention." The false spring of 288 AC brings a warmth to the Westerlands that lasts through the early months and then vanishes suddenly, as though the gods have decided to toy with men's hopes before returning them to the winter that will follow. It is during this warmth that news reaches Casterly Rock that shifts the world again. Jon Arryn, the Hand of the King, is dead. Robert Baratheon, the king himself, is riding south to discover how. And Tywin Lannister is summoned, not as a supplicant, but as a great lord whose counsel is valued. He does not go himself. He is old now, 90 years old, and more conscious of his mortality with each season that passes. Instead, he sends his son Jaime, who is now 25, a knight of the Kingsguard, golden and valiant and stupid in the ways that beautiful men often are. But before Jaime leaves for King's Landing, Tywin brings him to his solar and tells him something that will change everything. "There is a matter," Tywin says carefully, "of which you are not yet aware. It concerns the house and its future. When you are at court, you will observe carefully. You will note the disposition of the great lords. You will note particularly the Starks, who have ridden south with the king." "Father?" Jaime asks, confused. Tywin rises from his chair, a slow, deliberate movement. He walks to the window that overlooks the training yard. In the yard below, Arya is practicing with Sir Kevin, her sword moving in precise, economical arcs. She has just turned 15, and she is becoming something that transcends merely dangerous. She is becoming inevitable. "There is a child," Tywin says, "who was taken during the chaos of the rebellion. That child was a ward, a daughter of the North. She has been raised here, educated here, trained here. She is as much a creature of Lannister now as any lion born to our blood." Jaime steps forward, peering down into the yard. He sees a girl, small and dark-haired, moving with lethal precision. She could be anyone, but something in the set of her shoulders, in the way she carries herself, is familiar in a way he cannot quite place. "Why do you tell me this?" Jaime asks. "Because," Tywin says, "the time is coming when the realm will shift again." Robert Baratheon sits on a throne, but the throne is beginning to shake beneath him. The Lannisters will survive this shift. We have survived every shift that came before. But we will need insurance. We will need tools in places where tools are most valuable. A girl raised in the North, with the blood of the North, but with the loyalty of the Westerlands. That is the kind of tool I have created in that tower. What would you have me do? Jaime asks. Nothing yet. Simply remember that she exists. Remember her name, Arya. And remember that when the moment comes, her existence can be revealed to great effect, or it can remain hidden to even greater effect. The choice will depend on circumstances you cannot yet foresee, but I am telling you now so that when that choice arrives, you are not surprised by it. Jaime nods slowly, though understanding seems to elude him. He is too young, too focused on the glory of his position in the Kingsguard, too caught up in the beauty of his own reflection to grasp the depths of his father's thinking. But he will remember. That is all that matters. The false spring of 288 AC brings warmth to the Westerlands, and with it the news that shifts the realm again. Jon Arryn, the Hand of the King, is dead. The manner of his death is suspicious. Illness, they say, but illness that struck the Lord of the Vale suddenly and with no warning. And now Robert Baratheon is riding south from the north with the Starks, moving toward King's Landing, moving toward the truth of what happened. Tywin Lannister does not ride to King's Landing. His time at court has long passed. But he sends his son Jaime, the Golden Knight of the Kingsguard, a man of 24, beautiful and skilled, with a sword and possessed of all the arrogance that youth and strength and beauty can grant. Before Jaime departs, Tywin speaks with him in a corridor of Casterly Rock, far from listening ears. There is a matter, Tywin says, walking slowly beside his son, that you must understand before you go to court. Father? Jaime responds, his beautiful face turned toward his father with the attention of a man who knows his father does not waste words on trivial matters. During the war, the rebellion, we took a prize, Tywin says. A child. She was a hostage originally, but she has been raised here, educated here. She is as much a creature of this house now as any lion born to Lannister blood. They walk in silence for a moment. Jaime is accustomed to his father's way of speaking, indirect, calculated, every word placed deliberately. Where is this child? Jaime asks finally. In the Eastern Tower, in the training yard. She will not concern you directly, but you should know that she exists. There may come a time, and I suspect that time is coming, when her existence becomes significant. When that time arrives, remember what I have told you. Remember that we have leverage that the realm knows nothing about. What is her name? Jaime asks. Arya, Tywin says. She is 5 years old. By the time you return from the south, if you return, she will be 6. In 15 years, she will be 20. In 20 years, she will be 25. A woman grown, a woman with education, with training, with knowledge of Lannister strategy and Lannister interests. A woman who has no one in the world but us. Do you understand the value of that? Jaime nods slowly. He does not fully understand yet. He is too young, too focused on the glory of his position. But he will remember. That is all Tywin requires. Yes, father, Jaime says. Good. Now go to King's Landing. Keep your eyes open. The Starks will be coming. Watch them. Learn their weaknesses. Learn their strengths. The knowledge you gather may prove valuable when the moment comes to employ Arya's existence in the Game of Thrones. Jaime bows to his father and departs. By the time Arya is 10 years old, she has heard rumors about the realm that filtered down through the servants of Casterly Rock. The king, Robert Baratheon, came to the north. He came seeking answers about the death of his hand. He found a Stark woman, Lysa Arryn's sister, and he accused her husband, the Lord of Winterfell, of treachery. Civil war seems imminent. The realm teeters on the edge of fracture. And through it all, Arya's life continues in the tower, in the yard, in the solar with Maester Pydell, in the halls of Casterly Rock, in a bubble that seems disconnected from the greater world even as that world tears itself apart. She does not ask questions about the realm. She has learned that such questions mark one as deficient in understanding. A child's concern, not the concern of someone being trained to think like Tywin Lannister thinks. Instead, she listens when the servants gossip. She observes when her half-brother Jaime returns from the south with blood on his hands and murder in his eyes, though he speaks to her rarely, and always with a kind of distant wariness, as though she is a dangerous animal that might bite if provoked. She learns strategy through the histories Maester Pydell teaches her. understanding not just the facts of past conflicts, but the mechanics of why men made the decisions they made. By the time she is 10, she can anticipate her tutor's questions. By 11, she can argue about the complexities of succession law with a precision that impresses even Maester Pydell. By 12, she is beginning to understand that knowledge is a form of power, that knowing what moves in the shadows is as valuable as knowing how to move a sword. Tywin visits her less frequently now. He is very old. He is 95 years old, and even his iron will cannot hold back the erosion of time. But when he does visit the Eastern Tower, he brings her knowledge from the greater realm. The king is dying, he tells her when she is 11 years old. They sit in her solar, a room that has slowly transformed from a nursery into a kind of study, lined with books, scattered with maps. How? Arya asks. She does not ask why. The why is always obvious to her. Slowly. The Starks have given him poison, and the poison works through him like a canker that will not heal. Soon he will be dead, and when he dies, the realm will fragment. The Lannisters will survive this fragmentation, but we must be ready for it. Arya nods slowly. She does not yet fully understand how her existence serves the purposes of the Westerlands, but she understands that she serves some purpose. That is enough. What would you have me do? She asks. Tywin looks at her. This girl who is his ward, his tool, his creation. She has dark eyes, sharp features, intelligence written across her face like a text. She is nothing like a Lannister, and everything like what a Lannister should be. Continue to become who I am making you, he says. The world is changing. The time may come when you will be revealed, or when you will remain hidden. Either way, you will be ready. By the time Arya is 13, King Robert is dead. Civil war has begun. The North and the South are at war, the Westerlands are ascendant, and Tywin's plans, revealed slowly to Arya through maps and strategy discussions and historical precedent, begin to unfold like a flower blooming in fast time. The Lannisters declare for the boy King Joffrey. Jaime is sent to the Riverlands with an army. Lannister gold begins to flow toward strategic marriages, toward the hiring of mercenary companies, toward the positioning of loyal men in places where they can influence events. And Arya watches it all, learning, understanding, beginning to see the mechanisms of power as clearly as Tywin sees them. When Arya is 10 years old, the same age Robert's bastard son is, news reaches Casterly Rock that Tywin Lannister is riding to war. It is the first time in many years that the great lord has left his keep. He is 95 years old. His time should be measured in months, perhaps years if the gods are kind, but the realm is shifting in ways that demand his presence. He summons Arya to his solar before he departs. I will not return from this war, Tywin tells her flatly. He is too old for courtesies, too aware of his own mortality. It is likely that I will die in the field, or at Harrenhal, or somewhere along the Trident, surrounded by blood and mud. You should prepare yourself for that possibility. Arya does not cry. She does not ask him to stay. She asks the one question that matters to her. What will happen to me? That depends on what you make yourself, Tywin says. If you continue on the path I have set for you, if you continue to become what I am making you, then you will have a place in this realm. A place of power. A place where you can shape the course of events, not merely be shaped by them. He reaches into his desk and withdraws a small roll of parchment sealed with the Crimson Lion of House Lannister. This is a letter, Tywin says. If anything happens to me, when anything happens to me, give this to your brother Jaime. He will know what to do. Arya takes the letter. It is sealed, and she does not open it. She has learned the value of trusting her lord's instructions. Yes, my lord, she says. Tywin nods slowly. He reaches out, a gesture so rare that Arya nearly flinches, and places his hand on her head briefly, as though in benediction. Be a lion, Arya, he says. Not the lion of your blood, but the lion of your will. Become sharp, become necessary. Become indispensable to the survival of House Lannister, and you will never again be powerless. Then he turns, and she watches him walk from the solar, knowing that she will not see him again. The night Tywin leaves Casterly Rock, Arya stands in the eastern tower and watches the torches of his army fade into the distance. She is 10 years old. She does not weep. She has never learned how to weep in any meaningful way. Sir Kevin finds her there an hour after the last torch has vanished. The old master-at-arms moves slowly now, his joints stiff with age, but his eyes remain sharp as a hawk's. Come away from the window, girl, he says gently. Sir Kevin is old, very old. His hands shake when he holds a sword, though his mind is still sharp enough to understand the mathematics of fighting, the geometry of blade work. He told me to become a lion, Arya says. She does not turn from the window. He told me to become sharp, to become necessary. Well, he told you that because he's Tywin Lannister, and Tywin Lannister speaks in the language of purpose and use. But you're 10 years old, child. Let yourself be 10 years old for a moment longer. Arya turns then and looks at the old master-at-arms with an expression that is far too ancient for her young face. There is no defiance in her eyes, no childish rebellion. There is only the careful assessment of someone who has learned to measure every interaction for advantage and meaning. I don't know how to do that, she says, and it is the truth. She does not know how to be a child. She has been trained away from childhood since infancy. Sir Kevin nods, as though he has confirmed something he already knew. Then we'll keep training, he says. That's something, at least. The war in the Riverlands consumes the attention of the realm, in the way that wars do, with blood and fire and the grinding machinery of armies moving across land. News reaches Casterly Rock slowly, filtered through ravens and riders and the gossip of servants who gather in the kitchens and halls when they believe themselves unobserved. Tywin crushes his enemies with methodical precision. The Starks are broken. Robb Stark, the young wolf, is killed, betrayed at something called the Frey's wedding, the details unclear and contradictory depending on which servant is telling the story. One account describes blood on white wool, another mentions a direwolf's head sewn onto Robb's body. The specifics matter less than the fact itself. The North's great house has fallen, its army scattered, its king dead. The North falls, the Riverlands are secured. And through it all, the Lannisters consolidate power, moving pieces across the board of the realm like a man playing a game of Cyvasse that will determine the fate of kingdoms. Each move is calculated, each sacrifice is weighed against future gain. It is the work of a mind that thinks 3 moves ahead, 4 moves ahead, 10 moves ahead. Arya learns this not from official declarations or formal reports, but from the conversations of guards standing watch in the halls, from the reports that arrive with the ravens, from the careful way that the older servants speak when they think no one is listening. She has become adept at hearing what is not meant for her ears, a skill that will serve her far better than any sword ever could. She begins to keep a journal, though she hides it carefully in a loose stone behind her bed. The journal contains no personal thoughts, no emotions transcribed onto parchment. Instead, it is a catalogue of information, the names of lords loyal to the Lannisters, the disposition of forces across the Westerlands, the economic reports that she overhears discussed in the Solar. She is creating a map of power as it exists, as it shifts, as it consolidates. When she is 11, she asks Maester Pydell directly, "Is Tywin Lannister dead?" The Maester, who has never been good at dissembling, takes too long to answer. His weathered hands tremble slightly as he adjusts his spectacles, a gesture that betrays his anxiety about being asked such a direct question. "Not that we have heard," he says finally. "The Lord is very old, but the gods have not yet called him. The ravens bring news regularly, and all reports indicate that he remains in command of his forces. But 6 months later, a raven arrives at Casterly Rock bearing news that makes the entire keep shift, like a ship in a sudden wind. The message is sealed with the Crimson Lion, but the hand that wrote it is not Tywin's. It is the hand of his seneschal, Sir Godfrey. Tywin Lannister is dead. He died at Harrenhal, after the war had ended, in circumstances that are never fully explained to anyone below a certain rank. Some say he was ill. Some say an accident. A fall from a horse, though the Lord had ridden his whole life and was unlikely to fall now. Some say that enemies finally caught him, when his mind was scattered by the magnitude of his recent victories. The truth, whatever it is, remains locked away with the men who were present at his death, and none of them seem inclined to speak of it. Arya receives the news standing in the yard, a practice sword in her hand. She has been working on a particular pattern of strikes that Sir Kevin has been teaching her, a sequence designed to defend against multiple attackers, a skill that seems abstract and unnecessary in the confines of a training yard, but which Sir Kevin insists will one day save her life. Sir Kevin tells her himself, his weathered face grave. He stops the training, sets down his own practice sword, and faces her with the formality of a man delivering news that will change things. "Your lord is dead," he says simply. There is no cushioning of the truth, no soft words. Tywin Lannister would have approved of such directness. Arya lowers her sword slowly. She does not cry. She does not cry, and in that moment, standing in the yard with the afternoon sun beating down on the golden stones of Casterly Rock, Sir Kevin understands that she is no longer a child in any meaningful sense. She is a girl who has learned to experience grief as a calculation, as a shift in circumstances, a change in variables. Nothing more. What happens to me? She asks. Your brother rules now, Sir Kevin says. Jaime Lannister. He's still in King's Landing, bound to his oath as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, but he'll come home eventually. Or he'll send word of what's to be done with you. Arya is quiet for a long moment. She looks down at the practiced sword in her hand, considering it as though it might hold answers. Then she raises it again. Then I'll keep training, she says, until I know what he wants. They resume, and for the rest of the afternoon, Arya works through the patterns with an intensity that seems almost frantic, not from grief, but from the understanding that Tywin's death changes the calculus of her survival. She is no longer protected by the presence of the Great Lord. She is now dependent on Jaime, a man she barely knows, a man who has visited Casterly Rock perhaps twice in her entire life, a man who might decide that she is more liability than asset. With Tywin dead and the War of the Five Kings largely concluded, the North crushed the South in chaos, the Lannisters positioned to control the boy king, the realm settles into an uneasy peace. It is the kind of peace that comes not from accord, but from exhaustion. The great lords take stock of their losses, they count their dead. The graveyards of the realm are full of men who will never come home. Widows wear black. Children grow up without fathers. The machinery of grief processes the aftermath of violence, but the Lannisters ascend. Jaime Lannister does not come to Casterly Rock immediately. He is too busy in King's Landing, too occupied with his duties as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, too focused on the political machinations of a court where his sister is now queen, regent for a boy king, and his nephew is the instrument of that power. The Lannisters control the throne. The Lannisters control the purse. The Lannisters are ascendant, and Jaime is at the heart of that ascendancy. But he sends word. The message comes to Arya by way of Sir Godfrey, the seneschal who has overseen Casterly Rock in Tywin's absence. Sir Godfrey is a man in his 60s, gray-haired and weathered, loyal to House Lannister in the way that old men are loyal, not from personal attachment, but from decades of habit and service. Your brother has instructed that you are to remain here, Sir Godfrey says. They sit in his solar, a room lined with ledgers and accounts, records of the administration of one of the greatest estates in the realm. Your education is to continue. You are to be kept secure and ready for whatever purpose the Lord of the House may determine for you. Arya listens carefully to every word, understanding that these words are instructions encrypted in seemingly bureaucratic language. You are to speak to no one of your origins, your true name, or your purpose here, Sir Godfrey continues. You are to be Arya of Casterly Rock, ward of House Lannister. Nothing more and nothing less. Is this understood? Yes, Arya says. Furthermore, Sir Godfrey continues, and here his voice drops slightly, becomes more confidential. Lord Jaime has instructed that your training is to be intensified. Your skills with a blade are to be refined to the level of a master swordsman. Your knowledge of strategy, governance, and the movements of the great houses is to be expanded beyond anything we have yet attempted. You are being prepared for something, girl. I don't know what, and I won't ask. But be assured that the attention of the Lord of this house is upon you now. That means you are valuable. It also means that if you disappoint him, if you prove to be less than what he believes you can be, there will be consequences. The threat is not explicit, but it is clear. Arya nods slowly, and Sir Godfrey seems satisfied with her understanding. You will report to me each month, he says. You will tell me of your progress in your studies, in your training, in your education. I will pass these reports on to Lord Jaime by Raven. Are we understood? Yes, Arya says. Good. Dismissed. Arya rises and bows, a gesture that she has learned to perform with perfect courtesy, neither too obsequious nor too proud, and leaves the solar. She understands in her way that something fundamental has shifted. Tywin is gone, and with him, the world has become somewhat less certain. But Jaime has acknowledged her existence. Jaime has confirmed her purpose. That is enough. The years pass with a strange quality of suspended animation, as though Casterly Rock has somehow been separated from the normal flow of time. The realm outside continues to fracture and reform, The Starks are destroyed, but not entirely. The North rises again under a new leader. Conflicts erupt and subside. The great lords engage in the endless dance of alliances and betrayals that is the true nature of governance. Plots are hatched. Assassinations are attempted. Kings are murdered and replaced. The stability that Tywin seemed to have created begins to crumble almost as soon as his body is cold. But in the Westerlands, in Casterly Rock, Arya becomes something unprecedented. By the time she is 13, she can fight any man of reasonable skill and win. Her technique is immaculate. Each movement economical, precise, calculated for maximum effect with minimum wasted motion. Her speed is extraordinary. She does not have the strength of a grown man. She is still slight, still lean, still a girl in terms of physical development. But what she lacks in brute force, she compensates for with precision and understanding. She sees the patterns in combat that most men spend decades learning to recognize. Sir Kevin spars with her now as he would spar with a worthy opponent, not with a student he is instructing. There is a respect in his eyes when they train, a recognition that she has transcended the role of apprentice and become something else entirely. "You've got the gift," he tells her one afternoon, after she has disarmed him 3 times in succession. They stand in the yard, breathing heavily, sweat dripping down their faces in the heat of a Westerland summer. The gift for the blade. Some men are born with it. Some women, though that's rare, you're one of them. You see the patterns in fighting. You understand what the body can do before the body does it. You anticipate not just what your opponent will do, but why they'll do it. That's not something you can teach. "Can I kill someone with it?" Arya asks. The question is posed with clinical interest, not bloodthirst. It is the question of an apprentice asking a master about the capabilities of her craft. "Aye," Sir Kevin says after a moment. He sits heavily on a bench, his old body needing rest after the exertion. "If you ever had to, if you were in serious danger, if someone came at you intending harm, you could kill them. A grown man, a trained fighter. You could do it." "Good," Arya says. "Then I'll continue training." By 14, she is studying the movements of the great lords with the intensity of a master strategist. She has maps of the realm in her solar, maps that she has commissioned from traders who come to Casterly Rock, maps that she marks with her own annotations, understanding not just the physical geography, but the political geography. She studies where power flows, where it stagnates, where it gathers in dangerous accumulation. She reads reports that are not meant for her, briefs left on tables by stewards and seneschals who forget that a girl in the tower sees far more than anyone believes she sees. She learns the names and sigils of every lord in the Westerlands, understands their rivalries, their strengths, their weaknesses. She learns which ones are truly loyal to the Lannisters and which ones are only pretending, waiting for an opportunity to shift their allegiance if circumstances change. Maester Pydal, now very old himself, he is nearly 80, marvels at her retention and analysis. He brings her increasingly complex texts on governance, strategy, and history. "You think like a lord," he tells her one evening. They sit in her solar, surrounded by books and scrolls and maps. "Not like a lady, not like a warrior, not like any conventional thing. You think about how power moves, how it concentrates, how it can be influenced. It's remarkable in someone so young. It's what I was trained to do," Arya says. It is a simple statement of fact. She does not wonder why, does not question the purpose. She accepted long ago that the answer to why is because Tywin Lannister determined it would be so, and because Jaime Lannister has chosen to continue that work. When she is 14, a letter arrives from King's Landing. It is sealed with Jaime's personal sigil, a lion rampant, golden, and fierce, and addressed to Arya directly. In all her years at Casterly Rock, she has never received a letter addressed to her personally. She opens it carefully in the privacy of her solar, understanding that this is a moment of significance. The letter is brief, written in Jaime's hand, which is smaller and neater than Tywin's, but still carries the precision of education and nobility. "A time is coming when your existence will matter to the survival of House Lannister. I am not yet certain what that time will be, but it is approaching. I can feel it in the way power shifts, the way alliances crack, the way the boy king becomes less useful and more dangerous with each passing year. Prepare yourself. Learn everything. Become everything our father intended you to become. When the moment comes, you will know it. Until then, remain hidden and sharp. The world does not yet know you exist. Let us keep it that way until the hour when your existence becomes our greatest advantage. Your brother, Jaime." Arya reads the letter 3 times, committing each word to memory. Then she burns it in the hearth fire, watching the parchment curl and blacken and turn to ash. She does not discuss it with anyone. She does not mention it to Maester Pydell or Sir Kevin or Sir Godfrey. It is a secret that she holds alone, a knowledge that she is waiting for something. From that moment forward, she understands that she is waiting for something. She does not know what. She does not know when. But she is waiting, and she is becoming ready. And when the moment comes, she will not be found wanting. The war that destroyed so much of the realm slowly fades into aftermath. Joffrey rules as king, propped up by Lannister gold and Lannister steel. His hold on the throne is precarious. There are always threats, always possibilities of rebellion or assassination or external invasion. But for now, the Lannisters hold the South in their grasp. Tywin Lannister's corpse lies in Casterly Rock, buried in the crypt of House Lannister, alongside his ancestors. The crypt is old and vast, carved into the stone of the mountain itself. From that crypt, even in death, Tywin's influence radiates. His decisions, made years ago, continue to shape events. His strategies, laid out before his death, continue to unfold like flowers blooming in fast time. Jaime Lannister rules the Westerlands from a distance, sending instructions but never returning to Casterly Rock in person. He is bound to the Kingsguard oath, bound to the Boy King, bound to the political machinations of a court where his sister Cersei is power incarnate, and his nephew Joffrey is the instrument of that power. Jaime is where the real power is now, not in the distant west, but in King's Landing, in the Red Keep, in the throne room itself. But he does not forget about the girl in the tower. He sends her books, volumes on strategy, on history, on the bloodlines of the great houses. He sends her reports of the realm that are somehow filtered to reach her, briefings on the political situation that she studies and analyzes and learns from. He sends her, once, a sword of fine Valyrian steelwork, not Valyrian steel itself, which is far too rare and valuable to waste on a ward, but work that approaches it in quality. The blade is small, fitted for her hands, perfectly balanced for her fighting style. It is inscribed along the fuller with words written in High Valyrian, for a girl who thinks like a lion. Arya names the sword Widow's Wail, after a weapon from Lannister history, and she sleeps with it beside her bed every night. It is the only thing she owns that is truly hers. Everything else belongs to House Lannister, is provided by House Lannister, is part of the cage that is also her home. By 15, she is a woman in all the ways that matter except one. She has never left Casterly Rock. She has never seen the sea, though she has read descriptions of it. She has never been to King's Landing, or the Reach, or the Vale. She has never stood in the presence of the great lords of the realm face to face. She has never felt dirt beneath her feet that was not the courtyard of Casterly Rock. Her entire world is a tower, a yard, a solar, a few halls of a keep that is golden and ancient, and utterly divorced from the actual currents of power that flow through the realm. And yet, in her mind, she has traveled everywhere. She has stood in the throne room of the Red Keep in her imagination 1,000 times, understanding its architecture, its sightlines, its vulnerabilities. She has crossed the narrow sea in her mind and seen the free cities, understood their politics, their trade routes, their power structures. She has watched every move that the great lords have made over the past 5 years, predicted their responses, understood the logic that drives them. She is ready for something. She does not yet know what. But Jaime knows. Jaime is waiting for the right moment, waiting for the circumstances to align, waiting for the hour when a girl raised in a tower can be inserted into the Game of Thrones and change everything. That moment is coming closer. She can feel it approaching like a storm on the horizon. Inevitable, building, destined to arrive and transform the world when it does. The last entry in her journal from this period, written in her own neat hand just after her 15th birthday, reads simply, "I am ready. For what, I do not yet know. But I am ready." And in Casterly Rock, in the ancient stone tower that has held her for her entire conscious life, Arya Stark, who is now and forever Arya Lannister in all the ways that matter, waits for the world to call her forth. She waits for Jaime to decide her fate. She waits for the moment when she will step out of the shadows and become, in truth, a lion. She does not know it yet, but that moment is only months away. The board is shifting. The pieces are moving into position, and the girl in the tower is about to become the most dangerous piece on the board of all. The raven arrives on a cold morning in early autumn, when the leaves of the Westerlands begin to turn gold and red, and the wind carries the promise of winter. Arya is 15 years and 3 months old. She is in the training yard, working through a complex series of defensive movements that Sir Kevin has designed specifically to counter multiple attackers. When a messenger approaches with news that everything is about to change, Sir Godfrey summons her to his solar. She knows from the formality of the summons, the way the messenger addresses her with unusual courtesy, the careful tone, that this is not a routine report. She takes her time changing out of her training clothes, composing herself, understanding that whatever news has arrived will require her to be absolutely centered. The seneschal sits behind his desk, and beside him, sitting in a chair that usually remains empty, is a man Arya has never seen before. He is perhaps 40 years old, with the bearing of a knight and the careful eyes of someone who makes his living observing others. His hair is dark, streaked with gray. He wears the colors of House Lannister. Arya, Sir Godfrey says, and this is the first time he has addressed her by name in over a year. This is Sir Tywin Lannister, Lord Jaime's personal representative from King's Landing. He has traveled here bearing instructions from the Lord of House Lannister. Sir Tywin, this is the ward we discussed. Sir Tywin rises and bows slightly, a gesture of respect that surprises Arya in its formality. My lord instructed me to tell you that the time has come, he says. His voice is measured, precise. The king grows unstable. The realm fractures further. The balance of power shifts. Lord Jaime believes that circumstances now require your emergence. You are to prepare yourself for travel. You will be presented at court as Arya Lannister, a ward of the house who has been educated here in the Westerlands. Your true origins will not be revealed unless absolutely necessary. You will be given a role in court, one that will serve House Lannister's interests. Do you understand? Arya's heart does not race. Her hands do not shake. She has been prepared for this moment since infancy, but something fundamental has shifted in her understanding. The waiting is over. The tower has held her for as long as it will hold her. The world is about to see her, and she will change it. When do we leave? She asks. 3 days, Sir Tywin says. You will travel with myself and an escort of 20 men. We will take the King's Road south. The journey will take approximately 2 weeks, depending on weather and road conditions. You will need to present yourself as educated, refined, capable of navigating court. You will say nothing of your origins. You will speak no High Valyrian in public. Your fluency would raise questions. You will be a lady of the Westerlands, trained in courtly arts. Is this clear? Yes, Arya says. Lord Jaime has instructed me to also inform you that you will be under his direct authority in King's Landing. You will report to him alone. You will share intelligence with him alone. You will take orders from him alone. The Queen, your sister by house, though not by blood, does not know of your existence. Neither does your nephew, the King. This secret must be kept until Lord Jaime determines the moment for its revelation. Failure in this regard would be catastrophic for House Lannister. Do you understand? I do. Sir Tywin nods, satisfied. Then prepare yourself. You leave in 3 days. The next 3 days pass in a blur of preparation that Arya experiences with a strange sense of disconnection from her own body. New clothes are commissioned, tailored to her frame. She is measured, fitted, discussed as though she is not present. A seamstress fusses over the cut of a riding dress, the fall of a cloak, the quality of the embroidery. Servants pack trunks with clothing, with books, with the small possessions that Arya has accumulated over her 15 years in the tower. She spends one final afternoon in the training yard with Sir Kevin. The old master-at-arms does not ask where she is going. He does not need to. He has always known this day would come. You're going to the capital, he says simply. It is not a question. Yes, Arya says. Lord Jaime has instructed me to also inform you that you will be under his direct authority in King's Landing. You will report to him alone. You will share intelligence with him alone. You will take orders from him alone. The Queen, your sister by house, though not by blood, does not know of your existence. Neither does your nephew, the King. This secret must be kept until Lord Jaime determines the moment for its revelation. Failure in this regard would be catastrophic for House Lannister. Do you understand? I do. Sir Tywin nods, satisfied. Then prepare yourself. You leave in 3 days. The next 3 days pass in a blur of preparation that Arya experiences with a strange sense of disconnection from her own body. New clothes are commissioned, tailored to her frame. She is measured, fitted, discussed as though she is not present. A seamstress fusses over the cut of a riding dress, the fall of a cloak, the quality of the embroidery. Servants pack trunks with clothing, with books, with the small possessions that Arya has accumulated over her 15 years in the tower. She spends one final afternoon in the training yard with Sir Kevin. The old master-at-arms does not ask where she is going. He does not need to. He has always known this day would come. "You're going to the capital," he says simply. It is not a question. "Yes," Arya says. "Then listen to what I'm about to tell you, because it's the most important lesson I can give you." Sir Kevin lowers his sword. They stand facing each other in the late afternoon light. "You're the best swordsman I've ever trained. Better than most knights. Better than most soldiers. But that skill is not what will keep you alive in King's Landing. What will keep you alive is your mind. You understand patterns of combat because you understand patterns of movement, of intention, of weakness. Apply that same understanding to the people you meet. Watch them. Learn their patterns. Understand what they want, what they fear, what they will do when their backs are against the wall." Like strategy, Arya says. "Aye, like strategy, but more than that. It's survival. You're a girl in a city full of men who will want to use you, dominate you, or destroy you. Your sword won't save you if someone poisons your wine. Your sword won't save you if you're caught alone in the wrong corridor. So use your mind. Always." "I will," Arya says. "And Arya," Sir Kevin says. And this is the first time he has ever called her by her name in the informal way, as though she is a person rather than a student. "Remember that you are Lannister now, but you're Stark too, somewhere deep down. Don't forget that. Don't let them take that from you. Even if you have to hide it, even if you have to bury it so deep that no one ever knows it's there, keep it. It will keep you honest when the world tries to make you something else." Arya nods, and for the first time in years, something cracks inside her. Not visibly, not in any way that would matter to anyone watching, but internally, something breaks and reforms. She takes the old man's hand and squeezes it, a gesture of gratitude that she has no words for. That night, Arya stands in the Eastern Tower one final time. She has lived in this tower for her entire conscious life. She was brought here as an infant, before she had memories. She has grown in this tower. She has become who she is in this tower. The walls have held her, protected her, imprisoned her. Now she is leaving, and she will never return. She takes a final look around the solar, the bedroom, the training grounds visible through the window. Casterly Rock stretches out beneath her, golden and ancient and utterly indifferent to her departure. The keep will continue, the house will continue. She is merely a piece moving across a larger board. She sleeps little that night. She does not sleep from anticipation or fear, but from the absolute clarity of understanding that her life has fundamentally changed. When she closes her eyes, she sees the throne room in her mind, sees the Red Keep, sees the political machinations that she has studied for years. Tomorrow she will stop studying them and begin to inhabit them. The morning of departure arrives cold and clear. Arya emerges from Casterly Rock dressed in traveling clothes, a riding dress in Lannister crimson and gold, a cloak that bears the house sigil. Her dark hair is braided in the style of the Westerlands. Her face is composed, serene, giving nothing away. Sir Kevin awaits her at the gates with a contingent of armed men, 20 knights as promised, mounted and ready to ride. He helps her onto a horse, a grey mare with a calm temperament, suitable for long-distance travel, and nods to the gates. "We ride," he commands. And the gates of Casterly Rock open, and Arya Stark rides out into the world for the first time in her life. The journey south takes 2 weeks, as Sir Kevin predicted. The party moves swiftly, stopping only to rest the horses and camp for the night. Arya spends the days in the saddle, her body aching from the unaccustomed movement, her mind utterly focused on the road ahead. She speaks little during the journey. Sir Kevin seems to appreciate her silence. He does not try to make conversation. He does not ask her questions or seek to establish familiarity. He treats her as a dignitary being transported, which is, she realizes, exactly what she is. At night, when they camp, Arya stands watch on the edge of the firelight and listens to the men talk. They do not seem to realize that she is listening, that she is cataloging their words, their concerns, their gossip. She learns the disposition of forces around King's Landing. She learns that the king, her nephew Joffrey, has become increasingly erratic, making decisions that alienate the lords around him. She learns that there is a growing faction that questions whether the boy is truly fit to rule. She learns that Jaime Lannister is considered the most skilled swordsman in the realm, that his loyalty to the king is absolute, and that he is despised by many who see him as a golden pretty boy with no real understanding of power. She learns that her sister Cersei rules with an iron hand, that many lords fear her, that her relationship with her brother is spoken of in careful whispers late at night when the wine has been flowing. She learns all of this and says nothing, storing the information away in her mind like a dragon hoarding gold. On the 14th day, the Red Keep comes into view. It rises from the center of King's Landing like a great beast of red stone and golden towers. Arya has imagined it 1,000 times, has walked through it in her mind, has traced its corridors and understood its architecture through maps and texts and historical accounts. But no amount of preparation can truly capture the reality of it. The keep is massive in a way that defies simple comprehension. It is not just a building, it is a city unto itself, a world of stone and power and history. Flags fly from its towers. The royal banner, 3 gold lions on a black field, ripples in the autumn wind. Sir Kevin does not speak as they approach. He simply nods to the guards at the gate, and they are waved through without question. A Lannister with an escort. This is familiar enough that no one questions it. They ride through the outer gates, through the courtyards, up toward the keep itself. Arya's eyes track everything, the guard positions, the watch rotations, the defensible points and the vulnerabilities. Her mind is still cataloging, still assessing, still understanding the geometry of the place. A man appears as they dismount. A tall, golden-haired man with the unmistakable bearing of someone born to authority and trained to use it. Jaime Lannister. Arya recognizes him from the few visits he made to Casterly Rock when she was very small, though he looks older now, more worn, as though the weight of power has etched itself into his features. "Sister," he says warmly to Ser Kevan, embracing him. Then he turns to Arya, and for a moment something flickers across his face, recognition perhaps of the scope of what his father created, of what he is now unleashing into the world. "Welcome to King's Landing," he says formally. Then, in a quieter voice, for her ears alone, "Welcome to the Game of Thrones, Arya." Now the real training begins. That night, Arya is installed in chambers in the Red Keep, rooms that are luxurious by any standard, but which feel like a cage different in material but identical in purpose to the tower at Casterly Rock. She stands at the window and looks out at King's Landing spreading beneath her, at the great sept of Baelor with its white marble domes, at the harbor beyond where ships from across the known world dock and depart. She is no longer hidden. She is no longer waiting. She is here, in the center of power, and everything she has been trained for is about to begin. The next morning, she meets her nephew the king. Joffrey Baratheon is 16 years old, and utterly mad with the power of his crown. He sits upon the Iron Throne during the morning council, and even to Arya's trained eye, even with her years of study, it is immediately clear that something is fundamentally wrong with the boy who wears the crown. He is beautiful in a way that seems almost unnatural. Blonde hair like spun gold, blue eyes, a face that seems carved by gods rather than born of flesh. But his eyes hold a cruelty that is absolute and unconsidered. He looks upon the lords gathered before him as though they are insects, interesting only insofar as they provide entertainment. Jaime introduces her casually, as a new ward of the house. "My niece, Arya Lannister. She has been educated in the Westerlands and has come to court to learn the ways of governance and courtly life." Joffrey barely glances at her. He is too focused on arguing with Lord Stark, a man introduced to her as Eddard's eldest son, the new Warden of the North, a boy barely older than herself who carries the weight of a broken house like a physical burden. But Cersei looks at Arya. The Queen Consort studies her with an intensity that makes Arya's skin prickle. Cersei is beautiful too, in a different way than her brother, more controlled, more deliberately crafted, more dangerous. Her eyes are intelligent in a way that most people's eyes are not. They are the eyes of someone who understands power and uses it with absolute precision. For a moment, Arya worries that Cersei will recognize something, will see through her disguise, will understand that she is not simply a ward, but something far more purposeful. But Cersei merely nods, and her attention moves on to the next item of business before the council. After the council session ends, Jaime finds her in the corridors of the keep. "You did well," he says quietly. "You said nothing. You revealed nothing. The queen suspects nothing. The king barely noticed you existed. This is how you survive at court. By being visible enough to have purpose and invisible enough to avoid suspicion." "What is my purpose?" Arya asks. That depends on what opportunities emerge, Jaime says. For now, you are exactly what you appear to be. A young lady of the house, learning courtly arts. You will attend the queen when invited. You will make yourself useful. You will listen to everything and report to me alone. When the moment comes for you to be deployed as something more than a pawn, you will know it. Until then, learn the keep. Learn the people. Become necessary to us. And so begins Arya's new life. She moves through the Red Keep like a ghost, present but unobtrusive, watching and learning. She attends lessons with the masters of coin and strategy. She learns the workings of the small council. She studies the lords and ladies who come to court from across the realm, understanding their weaknesses, their strengths, their loyalties. She begins to understand why Jaime and Tywin brought her here. A Stark raised as a Lannister, speaking with the accent and mannerisms of the West, but carrying the blood of the North. She is uniquely positioned to understand both worlds, to move between them, to serve as a bridge or a weapon depending on circumstances. She is also, she realizes, training for a role that has not yet been defined. She is like a sword that has been forged and sharpened, but whose wielder has not yet determined its purpose. When she is alone in her chambers at night, Arya writes in her journal, cataloging the people she has met, the relationships she has observed, the shifting currents of power that move through the keep. She writes of Cersei's growing obsession with controlling the king. She writes of the rift between Jaime and his sister, visible only in the smallest gestures but profound in its implications. She writes of the young Stark boy who carries the weight of his house with a grace that will almost certainly get him killed in this place where grace is weakness. She writes of Tyrion Lannister, Jaime's brother, who has arrived at court and who watches everything with the gleeful intensity of a man who understands that knowledge is the most valuable commodity. She writes of Joffrey, and her assessment is simple. The king will not live long. He will die by violence or madness or both, and when he does, the realm will shift in ways that no one can predict. 3 weeks after her arrival, Jaime summons her to his chambers. It is late at night. The keep is quiet. I have a task for you, he says without preamble. There is a lord who comes to court tomorrow, Lord Baelish, the master of coin. He is perhaps the most dangerous man in the realm, not because he wields armies, but because he understands how power works in ways that most men never grasp. I want you to observe him. I want you to understand him. I want you to report to me everything you learn about his intentions, his relationships, his secrets. How? Arya asks. That is where your education becomes practical, Jaime says. You have been trained to think, to fight, to understand power. Now you must learn to act. You must become someone that Baelish will notice. You must make yourself useful to him in some way. You must gain his trust. And when you have done that, you will report everything you learn. You want me to spy for you, Arya says. I want you to do what you were trained to do, Jaime corrects. Become essential. Become valuable. Become the kind of person who others confide in without realizing the information they are sharing. You are young. You are female. Most men will underestimate you. Use that underestimation. Make them believe you are simply a curious girl interested in learning about court. Then report everything. Arya nods slowly. She understands now why Tywin wanted her raised this way. She understands what she is, what she has become. She is not simply a soldier or a strategist. She is something far more subtle and dangerous. She is a tool designed to move through the world and reshape it according to her house's purposes. When Lord Baelish arrives at court the next day, Arya has already positioned herself in the corridors where he must pass. She is reading a book of courtly poetry, seated in a window seat, the very picture of an innocent young lady. She arranges for their meeting to seem accidental. She arranges for their conversation to seem inconsequential. And when Baelish notices her, and he does notice her, because he notices everything, she smiles the smile of a girl who is lonely in a strange court and delighted to meet someone who shows her interest. It is the first of many games she will play. It is the first time she consciously uses her position, her education, her nature, as a tool designed by Tywin Lannister to accomplish purposes that she herself may not yet fully understand. But it is not the last. By winter, Arya Stark, who is now, completely and irrevocably, Arya Lannister, has become something unprecedented. She is a fixture at court, known but not well known, visible but not prominent. The lords speak of her sometimes, the young ward of House Lannister who is becoming quite charming, quite accomplished. But what they do not know is that she is cataloging every conversation, understanding every shift in power, preparing for the moment when her existence will change everything. That moment is coming closer. The board is being reset, the pieces are moving into position. And the girl who is born in the north but raised by the lion is about to change the course of the realm. The night the boy king dies, Arya is not present at the feast. She is in her chambers, reviewing reports that Baelish has carelessly left unattended in his solar. She has learned the patterns of his movements, where he goes, when he is most vulnerable, which servants he trusts. She has become indispensable to him, a girl who asks the right questions without seeming to, who offers insights that make him believe his own thinking has been validated. She is reading by candlelight when she feels the shift. It is not something she can articulate, not a sound or a sight, but something primal and ancient in her blood recognizes that something massive has occurred. The keep changes. The air becomes charged with a different kind of electricity, the electricity of chaos and opportunity and fear. She hears the screams first, then the running, then the controlled panic of a keep where power has suddenly become vacant. Arya moves quickly, silently, down the corridors toward the keep's war room. This is where Jaime will go. This is where decisions will be made. She reaches it unseen and positions herself in a shadowed alcove where she can observe without being observed. What she sees tells her everything. He choked on his own blood at a feast, poisoned in a manner that the court is already beginning to argue about. Was it the Tyrells? Was it the Starks? Was it the Lannisters themselves? The questions tumble over each other like dominoes, each one creating more uncertainty, more paranoia, more opportunity. Jaime stands in the war room with Cersei, and the expression on his sister's face is pure rage, not at what has happened but at the loss of her control. The king was her instrument, and now her instrument has been destroyed. The North will move, Cersei says, her voice like a blade. They will see the succession in chaos and move to reclaim what they lost. The Reach will move, Tyrion counters from across the room. He stands with a cup of wine, his small frame somehow commanding attention through sheer force of intellect. The Tyrells have invested gold and blood in this boy. With him gone, they will seek to position Tommen, and if Tommen falls, they will look to their own interests. We consolidate, Jaime says. His voice is steady, but Arya can hear the calculation beneath it. Tommen is crowned. We maintain continuity. We move Caven from Casterly Rock to the Council. We ensure that Lannister control remains absolute. But Cersei is thinking differently. Arya can see it in the way her sister's fingers curl into fists, in the way her eyes move across the map on the table. They will move against us, Cersei says. The North, the Reach, the Vale. They will seek to break House Lannister while we are distracted with succession. We need something. We need leverage. We need something that will remind them why they fear us. And in that moment, Jaime's eyes move toward the shadow where Arya stands, unseen by everyone but him. He does not make any overt gesture, but the message is clear. The time has come. Later, in the deep hours of the night, when Cersei has retired and Tyrion has returned to his chambers, Jaime finds Arya in the corridors. You understand what this means, he says. It is not a question. The realm will fracture without a strong center, Arya says. The North will rise again. The Reach will move independently. The Iron Islands will raid. There will be war. Worse than war, Jaime says. Chaos. The kind of chaos where no house is safe, where alliances shift daily, where the only certainty is uncertainty. The Lannisters will survive it, but not unchanged, and not without cost. What do you need me to do? Arya asks. Something that has never been done before, Jaime says. Something that will terrify the great lords and remind them why they should fear House Lannister's reach. The North is moving. Robb Stark may be dead, but his siblings live, and they grow in power. The boy I met in council, Rickon Stark, the youngest surviving Stark, he is in the North, at Winterfell, and he is being raised in the ways of leadership. We need to remove him. Arya understands the implication. She does not shy away from it. You want me to go north, she says. You want me to infiltrate Winterfell. You want me to kill Rickon Stark. I want you to do what Tywin created you to do, Jaime says. I want you to become a tool of House Lannister's survival. The North is unstable. Their new lord is young. They will be looking for spies, yes, but they will not be looking for a girl who speaks with their own accent, who carries their own blood, who can understand them in ways that southern lords never could. You can walk into Winterfell as a northern girl. You can insinuate yourself into their confidence, and when the moment is right, you will act. What happens to me afterward? Arya asks. That depends on what you accomplish, Jaime says. If you succeed, you will be recalled here. You will be revealed for what you are. A Lannister operative, a girl of the North trained in the West and deployed as a weapon. It will be a scandal. But it will also be proof that House Lannister's reach extends everywhere, touches everything. The North will be reminded that their independence is illusory, that we can reach them whenever we choose. Arya nods slowly. She has always understood that her purpose was tied to her utility. And now her utility has been defined. She will kill a child. She will destroy a house. She will do these things because she has been trained to do them, because she is Arya Lannister, because this is what she is. But there is something else beneath it all. Something that Sir Kevin's words have never quite left. Something that whispers to her from the deepest parts of her being. She is Stark too. Somewhere deep down, in a part of herself that she has spent 15 years learning to suppress, she is a girl of the North. I will need a cover, she says. A way to approach them without suspicion. You will travel as a merchant's daughter, Jaime says. We have already arranged it. A trader from the Vale who lost his family in the wars. He will bring his niece north to be a lady's companion in the household. No one will question it. The North is desperate for legitimacy, for signs that the realm is returning to normal. A merchant bringing his family north to trade and to establish business. This is a sign of normal. This is what they want to believe. The journey north takes 6 weeks. Arya travels with a man named Yoren, who is actually one of Jaime's most skilled operatives, though he maintains the demeanor of a simple merchant at all times. They take the King's Road, moving at a measured pace, attracting no attention. Arya watches the landscape change as they move north. The golden Westerlands give way to the Green Vale, and then to the rolling lands of the Riverlands. The Riverlands are burned and scarred. This is where Tywin's war was won, where the North was broken. Villages are abandoned. Fields lie fallow. The earth itself seems wounded. But as they cross the neck and enter the true North, something shifts. The landscape becomes wilder, less domesticated. The forests grow thicker. The air becomes colder. And Arya begins to feel something she has never felt before. A strange kind of homecoming to a place she has never been. A recognition of something that is in her blood. They arrive at Winterfell on a gray morning, when snow has just begun to fall. The castle looms before them, massive and ancient, built into the very earth of the North. It is nothing like Casterly Rock. Where Casterly Rock is golden and ornate and deliberately impressive, Winterfell is stark and functional, and overwhelming in its sheer age and weight. The Lord of Winterfell is a boy not yet 20, and Arya recognizes in his face the weight that comes with leading a broken house. She introduces herself as Aya of Vale, a cousin of Yoren's, looking for a position as a lady's companion. The new lord, seeing no threat in a merchant's niece, agrees easily. Within days, Arya has positioned herself at the heart of Winterfell's household. She is helpful, cheerful, seemingly innocent. She learns the routines of the keep, the positions of the guards, the locations of Rickon Stark's chambers. She learns where the boy goes, when he is most vulnerable, how he is protected. She understands the geometry of the place as thoroughly as she understands the geometry of a sword strike. But something unexpected happens. She meets Rickon Stark, and when she sees him, something breaks inside her that she thought had been sealed away long ago. He is 8 years old. He has dark hair and gray eyes. Stark eyes. He is small for his age, as she is small, and when he looks at her, there is an intelligence there that speaks of a boy who has seen too much, learned too much, had too much responsibility placed on his shoulders too young. He reminds her of herself. She is in the gardens of Winterfell, ostensibly gathering herbs, when Rickon finds her. He is alone, which is unusual. His guardians are not visible, and he seems to be enjoying a rare moment of unsupervised freedom. "You're from the Vale," he says. It is not a question. He has clearly been curious about the new girl in the keep. "Yes, my lord," Arya says. She does not drop the accent. She does not reveal anything of what she truly is. "You don't sound like most people from the Vale," Rickon says. His eyes narrow slightly. "Your accent shifts sometimes. It becomes something else. Something northern." Arya's hand moves to the knife at her belt, the small blade that she carries always, that has become as much a part of her as her own heartbeat. But she does not draw it. Instead, she looks at this boy, this child who should be dead according to her orders, according to her purpose, according to everything that Tywin Lannister created her to be, and she makes a decision that will echo through the rest of her life. My mother was from the north, she says. She came south when she was very young. I inherited her accent. It sometimes comes out when I'm not thinking about controlling it. It is a lie that is almost true. Her mother was from the north, Lyanna Stark, Ned Stark's sister, the woman who began a war. What's your real name? Rickon asks, and Arya stands at a precipice. She can lie, she can maintain the cover, she can do what she has been trained to do, or she can speak truth in a way that she has not spoken it since she left Casterly Rock. Arya, she says simply. My real name is Arya. Rickon nods slowly, as though something has been confirmed for him. You're not really a merchant's niece, he says. Are you? No, Arya says. I'm not. You're here to kill me, Rickon says. The words are spoken with the flatness of someone stating a fact he has known for some time. That's why you've been studying the keep. That's why you're always watching. That's why your movements are so careful, so calculated. Arya does not respond. There is no point in denying what is obvious to anyone trained to see it. My brother died, Rickon says. Robb. He was supposed to be great. He was supposed to unite the North and rebuild what was lost. But they killed him. At the wedding. His allies betrayed him. And now the North is fractured again, and people like me have to try to hold it together. He sits on a stone bench, and somehow, despite his age, he carries the weight of a man. Arya recognizes this weight because she carries it herself. You're from the south, Rickon continues. From House Lannister? I am, Arya says. And they sent you to kill me because I'm a threat. Yes. Rickon is quiet for a long moment. Then he looks up at her, with eyes that are too old for his young face. Are you going to do it? He asks. Arya stands at another precipice. Everything that she has been trained for, every moment at Casterly Rock, every hour in the training yard, every night spent studying maps and strategies, has led to this moment. She has been given a purpose, and she has the skill to accomplish it. She could kill this boy. She could do it cleanly, without warning, and be gone before anyone realized what had happened. But Sir Kevin's voice echoes in her mind. Remember that you are Lannister now. But you're Stark too, somewhere deep down. Don't forget that. Don't let them take that from you. No, Arya says, I'm not going to do it. And in that moment, she makes a choice that Tywin Lannister never anticipated, that Jaime Lannister will not understand, that will reshape everything. She reaches into her robes and withdraws a small vial, the poison that she was given, the tool that she was meant to use, and she smashes it against the stone of the garden path, watching the liquid seep into the earth. I'm going to help you instead, she says. I'm going to tell you everything I know about House Lannister's plans. I'm going to help you strengthen your position. And I'm going to disappear from this keep in such a way that it will seem as though I never existed at all. Rickon stares at her, understanding that what he is witnessing is impossible, that a girl trained by the Lannisters is not supposed to betray them. Why? He asks. Because, Arya says, I'm tired of being a tool. I'm tired of doing things I was trained to do. And because you're right, the North was broken, but it can be rebuilt. And because somewhere inside me, beneath all the Lannister training, I'm still a Stark, and Starks don't let their own be destroyed without a fight. Over the next weeks, Arya tells Rickon everything she knows. She tells him about Lannister strength in the Westerlands. She tells him about the political fractures that have emerged since Joffrey's death. She tells him about the movements of other great lords. She tells him about Jaime's strategies and Cersei's ambitions. She tells him about Tywin's legacy and how the old lion's designs continue to shape events even from beyond death. And then she disappears. She leaves Winterfell on a night when the snow is falling heavily, when the guards are distracted, when no one is quite paying attention to the merchant's niece anymore. She takes a horse from the stables and rides north, toward the wall, toward the edge of the world, toward a place where Lannister reach cannot easily follow. In King's Landing, when Jaime learns that his carefully prepared gambit has failed, that Rickon Stark still lives, that Arya has betrayed House Lannister's interests, his response is measured and cold. He does not order her killed. He does not declare her a traitor, though she is. Instead, he acknowledges what has happened, with a kind of bitter recognition that his father's greatest creation has turned out to be flawed in the only way that truly matters. In the heart. She is Stark, he tells Cersei, when the Queen rages about the failure. Tywin thought he could breed that out of her through training, through loyalty, through making her essential to our survival. But you cannot breed out blood. You can only suppress it. And when it rises absolute. The realm shifts in the aftermath of Arya's choice. The North, strengthened by intelligence it would not otherwise have possessed, becomes a true power again. Rickon Stark, advised by a mysterious intelligence, makes moves that stabilize his position and begin to rebuild his house. Word of a girl who betrayed the Lannisters for her northern blood becomes whispered legend, a cautionary tale about the limits of loyalty, the power of blood, the ways that the best-laid plans can be undone by a single choice. In the archives of Casterly Rock, they keep records of Arya Stark, the girl who was captured during Robert's rebellion, raised as a Lannister, and then chose to become a Stark again. She is listed as a failure, a tool that broke, a strategy that miscarried. But in the North, in the halls of Winterfell, she is remembered differently. Years later, when the North has rebuilt its power, when Rickon Stark has become a man and a true leader, he will sometimes speak of the girl who came from the South and chose the North. He will tell her story to his advisors, to his children, to anyone who will listen. He will tell them about how a girl raised to be a weapon became instead a bridge between worlds, and how sometimes the greatest power lies not in the fulfillment of your purpose, but in the choosing of your own purpose. And in the mountains beyond the wall, Arya Stark, who is and will always be Arya Lannister, builds a new life. She becomes a ranger, a scout, a woman who moves between the North and the free folk with the ease of someone who has learned that loyalty to place and blood matters more than loyalty to gold and houses. She never forgets Casterly Rock. She never forgets Tywin's lessons. She never forgets what she was trained to be. But she also never forgets the moment in the garden when she chose to become something else. When she is 30 years old, she returns to Winterfell for the first time since her departure. Rickon Stark greets her as an equal, not as a subject or a tool or a pawn, but as a woman who chose honor over utility. "Thank you," he says simply. "For what?" Arya asks. "For remembering that you were a Stark before you were a Lannister," Rickon says. "For choosing blood over training. For being the only member of House Lannister who ever understood that some things matter more than power." And in that moment, Arya Stark understands what Tywin Lannister never grasped, that the greatest power is not the power to control people and events, but the power to choose your own path, even when that path leads away from everything you were trained to be. The night is dark and full of choices. And Arya Stark, the girl who was raised by a lion but remained a wolf, learned that sometimes the most revolutionary act is the simple choice to be yourself, even when the world demands that you be something else. The end.